All right. Can we get this going here? Great morning, friends. Great morning, world. This is your boy, Dr. JC Doornick, otherwise known as
Dragon.
Welcome, everybody, to this amazing opportunity that we have in front of us to take advantage of what I call Make Sense Mondays. This is just something that we do to create the space for people, including me, to take command of our morning, win the morning, and thus take command and win our day. I came up with an idea that I want to welcome everybody to what I call your blank slate. I love the idea of the Etch-a-Sketch. Remember the Etch-a-Sketch? How you'd start off with a blank slate and then you could, do your artwork and stuff like that. But then the next day when you start a new one, you could Etch-a-Sketch it, right? Or whatever you want to call that, and start with the blank slate. So I want to encourage everybody as we get into this topic today, and I just want to say hello to some folks that are chiming in from all of the live platforms that we're on, because Make Sense Mondays, although it will end up in an edited version later for the podcast, this is on YouTube right now and on many, many channels streaming, including Instagram today, which gives everybody the ability to say hi. I see Chris Cushing. Great morning to you, my friend. Great morning, Deborah McIntyre, coming from Facebook, Instagram, and as well as LinkedIn and all of these things. What am I out of my mind? Streaming on all these live platforms. But chime in and let me know where you're coming from. Maybe what's the word of the day for you? What are you excited about? What's it like to be you these days? I read everything and I will say hi. But what I'm going to challenge everybody to do today is consider this idea of the blank slate. I want to encourage everybody to do just that today. Join me in this little 30-minute place where we're going to talk about this topic of bonding with your monsters and this whole story of the dragon, and you'll see how that relates to you and how you can use it. Great morning to you, Colleen. Awesome to see people here. We're always better together. Let's do this together. So let's build our own day today. I was thinking of this idea of Build-A-Bear, the Build-A-Bear stores that you see in the malls. You go in there and you bake your own bear and you fill it up with stuffing and stuff like that. A little strange, but we're going to build our own day today, and we're going to build our day in a way. We're going to take command, become the shot caller, dominant force of our life, and let's build this day together today. It's an opportunity. You get to choose whether or not you want to do it in a way that better suits our hopes and dreams. That's what we want to do. So what you need to do to be able to do that for this next 20 minutes, 30 minutes or so that we're together is you have to push the pause button as you're starting your day. And you might even come to this as a video on YouTube or watch this as, one of the recorded versions of these live streams later on in the day. So you can maybe start this tomorrow with this idea to just place a pause button on the regularly scheduled program that's looking to boot up from yesterday that possibly doesn't serve you, as well as the worries and concerns of the mystery of tomorrow. Put a pause on those. You can go back to them as soon as you want, but put a pause on them today, and let's start from a blank slate and create and build this day the way that best suits us. Great morning to you, Gary. Where are you coming from? Let me know where you're coming from, because I'm always curious to know what platforms are working, because I'm only looking at one right now, and I can only tell where you're chiming in from by seeing your comments. Great morning to you, Kathy. Great to see you. And for those of you that like the idea of the Make Sense Mondays, because we're growing. By the way, I just found out that our podcast is just about to hit that mark to be in the top 1% of all podcasts in the world. So right now we're 1.5%, but we're growing. A lot of you guys are enjoying the content, the Make Sense with Dr. JC Doornick podcast. That the logo looks like this, so that's how you can find it. But thousands and thousands of people are downloading it and sharing it with other people, becoming the dominant force and shot caller of their life. But just taking those conversations, those things that make you go, And then maybe sometimes we just go right back into our regular scheduled program, but we're taking those topics and interviewing guests. And we've got some amazing guests coming up, by the way. And we're just unpacking and making sense of things. When you make sense of something, you gain clarity. And it's just this amazing feeling of freedom when you understand something. And because from that place of making sense and gaining clarity and understanding things, you can make some important decisions such as what matters and what doesn't, what's in my control and what is not. You know, start to identify the fact that maybe that's just my brain thinking 40 to 70,000 thoughts a day. Why do I have to connect with those thoughts as who I am and what my potential is? So that's what we do. And in our Make Sense Academy environment, we do this every day. We do this every single day. And I want to invite a lot of you guys to come check that out. We have an amazing, private community that we do through the school platform. For just a teeny little fee, you get mentorship and coaching, but also the collaboration and access to these morning rise ups every day, as well as every bit of content that we ever create. We're creating online courses that are going to be for sale out there, but in the Make Sense Academy, $24 a month, you get access to everything, and that'll never, ever, ever change. So welcome, everybody. So excited to be here with all of you today. And this topic is just one that I really, 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 really like. And I think that it's going to be great for you. So this is based on this idea. I call this making sense of this idea of bonding with your monster. We all have monsters. But one of the most common questions that I ever get, and this would be when people reach out to me like you, Muskegon, Michigan, Valerie Bercier. Oh, cool. Very cool, Gary. I love that human being, Valerie Bercier. So a lot of people ask me the question, what's up with the dragon thing? Because my name is Dr. JC Doornick, but I'm called the dragon. So in podcast interviews and whenever I meet people, and a lot of people reach out from the podcast listener field and ask me what the whole dragon thing is. So I want to share that with you today, but share some cool insights that you can take and utilize yourself today. And that's the purpose of Make Sense Mondays, and the purpose of my podcast is to kind of pay forward some things that I've picked up along the way and arm and equip you with them as opportunities, because you always get to choose whether you use something or not. And I want to let you know that that's a timing thing. Are you in a position right now where you are just feeling like change is something that must happen? Because we all want things in life, but there's a difference between wanting things and experiencing what Martin Luther King calls the fierce urgency of now, and saying, I no longer want and even need that. I must have it. So if you're in that place right now, this is where you take action. If you're not taking action on things, because I'm about to give you some cool stuff to think about and know about, but if you don't actually take action, don't beat yourself up about that. It's more about the fact that you don't have a reason to take action. And unfortunately, myself included, the way human beings work is we very often need things to get so bad, our head is underwater and we can't breathe, and we need that air so bad that we will do something about it. So I'm saying that and offering you this space to recognize it doesn't have to get that bad if you take the time and identify what it is that truly matters most, and what it is that you want and why. Allow yourself to do that, and you will just have that fierce urgency of now happen right now, that thunderbolt where you'll say, I'm going to do something about it right now. Because if you get to that point, and today we're going to talk about facing your fears and embracing and embodying and changing the way you look at your fears. Remember, if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. So if you want the things in your life to change, the things that you're looking at in life, you have to first start by allowing yourself to change the way you look at things. We're going to do that today, but it's going to require action. Remember, it's who you are that determines how well what you do works. And if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change, but it has to do with who you are, right? So let's talk about that kind of stuff right now and what makes you unique. So let's talk about this idea of people asking me this question, what's about the dragon? So let me share my rise up today with you today. So what's that dragon thing about? Why do you call yourself the dragon, they say. So I share with them that I call myself the dragon as a way, I mean, there's so many different versions of the story, but the main essence of it, and this comes as an excerpt from my book that's coming out soon. Hopefully it's getting picked up by a big, big company. I share the whole story there, but so that this would be just a part of it. But I share that I call myself the dragon as a way of reminding myself. Here's the first lesson. Here's a little tidbit. Great morning to you, Lori. As a way of reminding myself that I am now fearless. And by the way, being fearless doesn't mean that you don't experience fear. I'm experiencing fear right now, being live and potentially screwing up, and running through my head are these ideas. Will they like me? Will I be of value? Is this stupid what I'm doing? Just like you would. But being fearless means it's more of a relationship of saying, I'm not going to let those fears change the way I proceed with today, because I've changed my orientation with fear. So when I call myself the dragon, it reminds me that I am now fearless and armed and equipped with my universally gifted superpowers. You see, I now understand, because I've changed the way I looked at my dragons per se, that I'm actually universally equipped and gifted with superpowers that actually enable me to face the challenges, any challenges, with this I don't care attitude, no matter what, right? Don't matter what the challenges are, I'm in control. That's just a decision that I made. And this episode today is going to unveil that the way I did this, hence the reason I call myself the dragon as that reminder, is I recognized something very, very critical in my life, that the things that I was afraid of were not there to harm me. They were actually there to help me. And it goes pretty deep. So this is going to be an opportunity for you to identify your own version of this and dragons. So first, let's acknowledge some things that we all share in common. This is important, because sometimes we look at people and we just assume that they know something that we don't know. They're just at different phases of their life. But what we all have in common is that when we face, and this is through evolution, when we face various challenges in life, we're all confronted with the common fears, and those are success and, the fears of failure. In any way, shape, or form, your fears will fall somewhere into those categories. Fear of success, fear of failure. And they're all correlated with our programmed perceptions. So that's what we have to identify. In our private community, I teach a 4-step process to changing the way you look at things and then responding differently, called the interface response system. The first step of that is acknowledging the way that our brain works and the way that it has been programmed. If you understand that your thoughts and feelings are attached and tethered to things that other people told you, you'll realize maybe they're faulty. Maybe there's some fallacy to that, which would give you the validity to put a pause on it. So we're often confronted with these common fears, but they're all correlated with our programmed perceptions of what success and failure represent. Your relationship with what success and failure represent has a lot to do with this stuff, or whether or not we feel capable or worthy of conquering and achieving these things. Do you feel capable, and better yet, worthy of conquering some of the things that you want to do that maybe you're afraid of? And sometimes fear doesn't show up like, run, here comes a monster. Sometimes fear shows up in just your thought process of saying, like, I don't think that I can do that. Right? And then you'll know that because you'll say something like, it's not the right time, or I'm going to try something else. So remember, fear doesn't have to be the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the guy chasing you. We're going to use an analogy like that, but fear is whatever you define it, hence your relationship. So these fears are commonly associated with the things that we have been led to believe. Step 1 of the interface response system, to become aware of these things that we have been led to believe that we either can or can't do, and also including things that we have been led to believe will cause us harm. Very, very important to know that. So what we know from every book and every research paper, on fear is that the things that we run from, they don't become smaller. The things that we run from become bigger. Think about that. If you're running from something, you're giving it power. And then also the things that we face head on get smaller. So on paper, I think that's something that we all acknowledge, especially those of you that are in the process of personal growth or self-development. On paper, we all acknowledge that it's common sense to face our fears, right? Now, I actually think that it makes total sense to run from your fears because in that current moment at that time, you're not ready to face your fears. I get it. But it's common sense to recognize that if I want something that's sitting on the other side of this mysteriously placed poop in front of me, that I have to go through the poop to get it. It's common sense to not run from the poop. It gets bigger and smellier. So with this sensical approach becomes increasingly difficult times. When you've been running long enough, I don't know about you, but when you've been running long enough, you might be having this insight right now. It's like it's time to stop running. But when you've been running from your fears long enough, they get not only more powerful, but they also adopt some other things. And that's where the dragon comes in. So when you're running long enough from those fears, they become powerful enough and you therefore become weak enough. Remember, if they become powerful, you become weak. You become weak enough that these proverbial, what I call dragons, start swooping over your head in support of the fact that you're afraid of something, and they appear, and this is a powerful word, appear. Great morning to you, Kathy Beasley. They appear to have the intention of finishing you off, right? When you get weak enough from running from your fears long enough, you start to get this idea that it's like almost like catastrophizing. You start to envision that there's some sort of proverbial dragon swooping over your head, just waiting to finish you off. You can get to that point. And dragons, in this case, I want you to pinpoint what your dragon is in your life. Dragons in this place, in this space, represent the concept in your head that you're not worthy or capable of certain aspects of your goals and dreams and never will be. So in one sense, your dragons are your thoughts. But you can look at them as an outside force from the universe that's telling you that you can or can't do something. Great to see everybody showing up on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube Live, and also Instagram today. I don't know what happens to this after I close it out on Instagram, but that is at Dr. JC Doornick. So much fun to be here with you guys today. Love and appreciate you all. And I'm hoping that we will see each other again. Okay, so what's interesting about this idea of the dragon, these mythical stories about the dragon, and this is kind of how you can start interpreting it yourself, is that there were many accounts. Here's what's fascinating about dragons and storytelling. Many accounts about people from different cultures and generations talking about dragons, yet no one ever, there's no proof at any time that they were nothing more than a mythical fable. No one actually ever documented ever seeing a dragon other than, you know, a kimono dragon or little lizards going around. But nobody ever documented and, you know, can prove that there was a fire-breathing dragon that came around. So I want you to understand that when you're looking at the concept of your dragons, for the most part, you've made them up. And where do we make things up? In our brain. Take note of that. Because if you make something up in your brain, in one sense, recognize that it lives in your brain. So all of these accounts, but there's no documents, information that they ever existed. So I looked into the different versions of these stories. And one of them, fascinating enough, is the chivalric and Christian version, which acknowledges that the dragon was a symbol of evil. And this is how I was looking at it. Remember, if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. Evil swooping over my head, threatening to vaporize me at any moment. That's what I was sharing before, symbolizing the threat of the necessary dark side of life where things could go wrong, as well as that hopes and dreams about my identity. You know, all of those weaknesses were coming out. So that's the chivalric and Christian version that, remember, has been programmed into our minds. Dragons represent evil swooping over your head, waiting to capture you. So can you see that if you're looking at your fears in that way, that's not something you came up with. That's something phase one of interface response system you were taught. And that causes you to take one or two. When you start to get into that mode, you have two choices: to either fight or flight. So what I chose, because I was deeply entrenched in personal growth at the time, was to fight. And the reason why I chose to fight, I don't know what position you're in right now, but I chose to face and fight my fears like anxiety. And by the way, I still fight those fears, but I chose to fight that because I just determined that I wanted what was on the other side. So I chose to fight. Now, that's when I became, back in the old days, what I would call a dragon slayer. Now, you can use any sort of an animal or an analogy, but I think it's cool because the dragon is a mythical creature. And I find myself now sitting in the place of being what I used to look at as a mythical creature. Wouldn't it be cool if you all of a sudden became somebody and looked in the mirror and noticed that you were somebody that was once something that you never believed you could be? So that's why I like the mythical creature concept. So understand that's that chivalric and Christian version of it, and I chose to be a dragon slayer as a way of fighting through that. But what's interesting is you can run from something and make it bigger, but if you face it head on, you're also giving it power as well as something that is not you. This is crucial. So when you identify your fears and you decide to face them, if you think about it, in more sense than not, you're facing something as if it's not you. Why would I try to fight myself, right? Rather than embrace myself. So that version of what dragons meant was programmed, and I was indoctrinated into that and tethered to that. And I became the dragon slayer, which seemed noble at the time, but I was always fighting. In fact, my friends used to always say, "How are you doing?" And I would say, "I'm slaying dragons." And that was a universal way for us to say, I'm facing the fear. And by the way, that's a very, very noble thing to do as far as all the books say, to face your fears. So what's interesting about that is that was a choice, and I forgive myself for I know not what I do, because I was just something I didn't know. So then I learned the other approach. Now, this is why it's so important to allow yourself to be open and curious to all things. See, if I was locked in and I said, this is this, and I put an exclamation point behind my definition of my fears, and I didn't allow myself to be open and curious to anything else, I never would have found the other version of it. And that was first through Buddhism. So in the Buddhism religion, well, actually, it's not a religion. In the Buddhist philosophy, that's what I love about the live version versus the podcast, is I get to make it look like I said everything right. But you guys get the live version right now. Great morning, Karen. Good to see you guys. So when I learned the Buddhist philosophy, it had a completely different perspective on the concept of dragons, saying that they were actually good luck and positioned to protect us. So just imagine if you change the way you look at the things that you're afraid of and started to say they were good luck, they were for me, not to me, and positioned to protect me. So there's so much cool stuff in that, and I don't have time to do that in our little time together today. But also, if you look at the Egyptian scrolls and you learn about what the dragon meant back then, they actually made the dragon the protector that would stand guard at the doorway to your mind. How cool would that be if all of a sudden I started to notice that these things in life that I was afraid of were actually there for me, to the extent where they were looking to come in and protect me from things that maybe didn't matter and that were not only not useful in support of my goals and dreams, but causing me distractive harm. So I started to say, I like that way better. That seems like it better suits me. In fact, in the Orient, if you look deeper, the dragon actually symbolizes supernatural power, wisdom, strength, and hidden knowledge. Now, when I learned about that, what happened is I started to become open. This is the power move of the day, to not only start with a blank slate, but a power move of the day is to just simply allow yourself to be open. And the dangers of becoming open is you start to notice things like your core values and your morals and your religion and your political preferences and all those things. They're going to be susceptible to change because you're allowing yourself to just say, I'm going to allow myself to look at things differently in case there's a better way. And when I define better way, what I'm saying is a way that better suits my goals and my dreams and the things that matter most to me, rather than locking in and being tethered to something that I potentially was taught outside in that is no longer serving me. That's a power move for the day. I'm going to be doing a lot of that stuff on my Instagram, power move of the day. Being open and curious. Very scary for some of you. If you look in the mirror and you identify yourself by your concepts and your beliefs, I understand you might not be ready for that. But if you want to unlock some serious freedom in your life and a better quality of living your best life, become open and curious. So those two perspectives, that I was looking at, basically I saw the double-edged sword of it, of my own perceptions, and I identified that I had the power to change. See, that's what a power move means, is it all of a sudden helps you identify that you have the power to change the way you looked at them and thus change the way that they presented themselves, right? So I started looking at my dragons, these swooping dragons waiting to come in for the kill when I got weak enough. I started to look at my dragons as parts of who I was. Remember, I recognized that they were coming from my brain. My sense-making machine was projecting whatever I was thinking, and I started to say that comes from me. So I started to get excited that maybe they were there for me, not against me. So I started looking at my dragons as parts of who I was, and I recognized that I had the power to easily handle challenges with their help. So I started to recognize that my fears, so it's one thing to say the obstacle is the way, but it's another thing to recognize that the things that you're afraid of are actually there to help you, not only guide you, but help you. So I started to realize that my fears were there to actually help me handle these challenges. And I realized they were following me around constantly, never giving up on me, because they wanted me to tap into them so they could do their job. They wanted to come in and tap them in like in a wrestling match so they can come in and do their job. I thought they were chasing me, but they were like, let us help you. So it reminds me of the Avatar movie. For those of you that have seen Avatar, that character, I think his name was Navi, and he bonded with that creature, those flying like pterodactyl-like dragons. They were called Ekrons, and together, and it was a very, very tough thing to do, they became a powerful force once they were bonded together, if you remember that movie. If not, it was a great movie, and I think they're coming out with another one. So although this thing now is perceived as a part of you, understand that there's a part of you that is volatile, and it knows nothing but moving forward and facing fear. So understand, when you decide to partner with the monster in the closet, it's not going to be a smooth transition like the movie of the Avatar. And that was a cool depiction of that. At first, there's conflict and there's fear and overwhelm and all of these things that you'll feel. But as you start to look to bond with that volatile version of you that kicks butt and takes names no matter what, it's going to be a little bit challenging at first, right? But once again, common sense, everything that you've ever learned is that growth takes place where? In the uncomfortable. So there's all these signs that the universe keeps giving you, and these insights that it keeps giving you, that are just telling you yes, yes, yes. But it's you and how attached you are to the concepts and core values and morals and all of these things that you have been programmed with. If you have put an exclamation point behind them and stand firm with those things, and you're not open and curious, well, then you'll never be able to allow the door of possibility to open for you. So I decided to embrace and allow the dragons in. It's that idea of being scared of the monster in the closet or the monster under my bed and moving. Remember, it gets bigger when you're afraid of it and you close the door. I started to go into the closet. Some people are coming out of the closet. I went into the closet and started having like cocktails with the monster. That was my idea. So I decided to embrace and allow these dragons in and embody them as part of me, allow them to become the version of me that can do anything. Eventually, you know, opening that proverbial closet door and stop running from the monster within and have cocktails with it. So rather than deciding to keep that door closed and accept it as a necessary, or rather than keeping that door closed, decide to keep it as a necessary part of who I am and who I need to become and evolve into to handle adversity with grace. So you hear me say all the time these reminders, hey, I don't care. Words don't even describe how little I don't care about things that don't matter. That's the dragon speaking. That's the dragon. And you all have that inside of you. So embrace the dark side as the necessary ingredient. When you partner with the dragon, that's when you can actually not just say that, but actually do it. So the obstacle being the way rather than it being in your way. Once bonded with your dragon, once your once perceived evil dragon is bonded with you, you learn that it is actually a part of you and a necessary part of you. See, everybody here knows that there's a version of you that can handle things. That's what I'm talking about right now. And very often, without knowing it, you're running from that version of you. What I'm saying is you have to acknowledge this and allow that version in as part of you. And all of a sudden you start saying, I feel confident. Now, what's the easiest way to get to the point where you'll allow the monster in and bond with the monster? Always start with your physical health. You see, I lost a bunch of weight and I got healthy and I started practicing healthy habits instead of on a healthy body, rests a healthy mind. Those were some really, really important things that allowed me to have the mental clarity to allow these things in, to open the door of curiosity. So once bonded, your perceived evil dragon becomes part of you. So a crucial and helpful part of this process, in fact, is to recognize that the dragon was never something that was there to destroy you. It was always something there. If you can even entertain that idea that your fears were never there to destroy you, they're actually there to help you. And just ponder that. Maybe you just start pondering that with the sound of, maybe. There's another power move today. Start using the word maybe. It's a scary word to use if you're identifying with who you are and it's like you're afraid of anything else, but start using the word maybe. So can you see the double-edged sword of your relationship with yourself and your dragon? We have to combine them. Remember, there's two edges to the sword, but it's the same sword. So is the perception of your dragon right now one of evil and fear, connected to the things like failure and things that are a threat to your identity? Perhaps you feel as a victim of sorts of your dragon at this time, or are you ready and open and curious to embrace the suck of your dragon? I always say embrace the suck. The reason why I say that is you'll notice that for the most part, it's true that life sucks and then you die. So if that is true, and you might ignore that, but if you really look at the facts, most of life is tough. Most of life is challenging. So when I say embrace the suck of your dragon, what I'm saying is if we can learn how to start embracing the suck of things as good things happening for us rather than to us, well, then you're going to enjoy most of your life. If most of your life sucks and you learn how to enjoy the suck and dance in the rain, well, then you're going to have a wonderful life. So that's why we had to do that. So are you afraid? Are you running from your dragons right now like I did most of my life? Or are you ready or already in the process of embracing the suck of your dragon and recognizing them as supernatural creatures of power and the actual main ingredient that you've been looking for your fulfillment cake that you're trying to bake? Can you identify your own dragons in your life right now? They show up in different ways. It could be financial stress. It could be relational stuff. It could be addiction and things like that. Can you identify your proverbial dragons that are swooping over your head right now that you're running from or fighting right now, and take that other approach of maybe looking to let them in and bond them. It seems like a crazy thing to do, but I think at the same time, right now with me, you understand the sense behind it. So let's see where we're at in closing. So they're either there to support you or promote failure. So it's a choice. Remember, if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. So I'm offering you that blank slate right now. That's why the blank slate is so important. Is within a blank slate, if you allow yourself to sit here right now, not tethered to everything that you've been taught to believe and not worried about tomorrow, just right here, right now, grant yourself the ability to acknowledge that the universe and God has given you 24 hours right now. You're still breathing and your brain is still working, your eyes are open, you're aware, you're alive to whatever degree you are. In this moment right now of gratitude for even having this opportunity, are you open to becoming open to the fact that a lot of the things that you are believing might not be serving you and they might not even be true? And who cares if they're true or not, to be honest with you? What we should be doing is looking to live our best life. And there's a lot of distractions. So they are not waiting for you to get weak, those dragons. They are actually not there to incinerate you when you get to that weak state. They're actually there. This is the other way of looking at it. They're actually there looking to give them permission. They're actually waiting for permission, that tap somebody in for the wrestling match, to give them permission to partner with you. That's what they want to do, and let them in and give you the power to incinerate, not be incinerated, to incinerate your true challenges and pushing through your fears of failure, your issues of self-worth that are causing you to not feel worthy or even shame yourself in your life right now. There's a version of you waiting to come and partner with you and crush all of those things. You're still going to be afraid of them, but you're just now going to recognize that you have a part of you that handles those things, and you've been running from that part. Your true challenges, right? Your true challenges, like the overwhelm associated with your success, causing you to come up with excuses in your life that you hear yourself say, that say, now's not the right time to go after my dreams. Have you ever caught yourself saying that? That's insane, right? That's insane for us to say, now's not the right time to go after my dreams. When is the right time? Do you have a prediction of how much time you have? By committing to the hard work and all of those things, right? So now's not the right time to do that. It's time to flip the switch. It's time to remove the write protected switch on your SD card, which means becoming open to new information. And it's time to flip the switch and stop running from or fighting your dragons. This is if you want to move forward. It's time to bond with the monster in the closet. Lay down with the monster under your bed. It's time to bond with your dragon and receive your superpowers that have been bestowed upon you in birth. There are superpowers waiting to partner with you that are going to empower you to handle anything and everything, to help you become the producer, director, main character, dominant force, and shot caller of your life. I love and appreciate you all. This has been a Make Sense Mondays. Make Sense Monday. If you want to check risk-free, check out our Make Sense Academy and partner with us, where we're in our psychological safe haven, where we're just unstoppable and just every day, just resetting and rewiring our brains in a way that better suits us. Just reach out to me through DM, PM, smoke signal, email, whatever it is. My handle at Instagram is at Dr. JC Doornick. Just reach out and just say the words "make sense," and I'll offer you a risk-free trial period. It's $24. I don't know what you're paying for personal growth, but in our world, it's $24 a month. And if it's not something that you see value in, we'll give you your money back. Love and appreciate you all. Have an amazing day. And to the members of the Make Sense Academy, we will be discussing this stuff all week. And I will see you tomorrow morning. Have an amazing day, everybody. All right. Fun.